If everyone could please find a seat. Thank you for coming out today. My name is John Leopold. I am your county supervisor, chair of the Board of Supervisors, and I want to thank you for coming out on a beautiful night to spend a little time thinking about what's happening for the future of our county. You know, right now, there's a lot of good things happening. The county hired a new county administrative officer after 28 years of the last CAO. So Carlos Palacios, former city manager of Watsonville, was hired by our board in June. And one of the things that we said to Carlos, and Carlos said in part of his interview, is we need to do a strategic plan for the county. And there's lots of reasons why. I'll get into that in a second. But I want to share some other good news about the county. First of all, I want to introduce our new assistant CAO, Nicole Coburn. She's a first district resident, longtime county employee, and we see great things for her. So please congratulate Nicole. At our last board meeting, we got some great news. And we did something I think was great. Our board made a decision a couple years ago that we needed to increase our reserves. We had come out of the Great Recession, and one of the things that we knew that we needed is we needed a bigger cushion for something like the Great Recession. And we made a decision to triple the size of our reserve to be 10% of the county budget, which is not a small amount of money. And we gave ourselves 7 or 8 years to do it. We're now just about at 10%, a couple years early. And so that's a good news. It's also helped because the credit rating agencies that review what kind of rating we have, so if we have to borrow money to determine how much we pay, they've raised our rating to a AAA. And so that's good news. It says that we're fiscally sound as a county. And one of the outcomes of having a strong reserve, we had a little bit extra money coming out of last year's budget, and we decided to commit $1 million to our county road system because we're only $100 million behind. So with Measure D, funding from the state, and now another $1 million, we have not put that kind of money from our general fund into our road system in 16 years. So that's good news. So that leads us to where we are today, because there are lots of other good things. You can look right across the parking lot here, see the Boys and Girls Club. We're going to be adding a library annex right here in between Simpkins and the Boys and Girls Club in the coming years. But it's not enough just to just get individual things done. What we as a board and what our new county administrative officer felt like is we need a strategic plan to set what our goals are and to align all of our departments with those goals, and then use those goals to develop a system of metrics so we can see that the investments we made have made a difference. You might be surprised that we haven't done that before, but we've never done that in the county of Santa Cruz. And when we looked out over other counties that we considered successful, they had these kind of plans in place. So tonight is part of a session that we're doing in every district in the county. You can be proud that we have the largest crowd so far of anyone. The first district cares. But we're going to talk about what this process is. We're going to be asking you about your opinions about what some of those larger goals should be. And what that's going to lead us to is probably a 2-year budget process where we spend 1 year figuring out our budget, what our budget's going to be for the next 2 years, and then 1 year where we look to see how we're doing about reaching our goals. This will make us more accountable to you. It'll make our employees more accountable to the county system and to the goals that you help set. So I really appreciate that you took time out of your schedule tonight to to come and be part of that conversation. And I want you to know that we're committed to listening to the community to make sure that the goals that we set as a county are the community's goals. So thank you, and we'll turn it over to our new Assistant CAO, Nicole Coker.
Thank you. So welcome, thanks for coming tonight. This is our fourth community forum. We've held one in each district, and we have our final one this Thursday in Davenport. If anyone's interested in coming to that, you're welcome. They're all open to all constituents. There are a number of staff in the room, so I just wanted to have staff raise your hand. They are either on the Strategic Plan Steering Committee or are members of the County Administrative Office working with the Steering Committee. They're here as well as me. I'm here to really ask some questions and listen to the input that you're going to be providing today. And so I also want to introduce Shebra Kalantari-Johnson, who is our facilitator this evening. She is going to be helping you through a series of activities. One of those is around generating a shared vision for the county. Another is doing a scan of important issues in our county. And the third is doing what we call a SWOT analysis, which will look at the county's strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities for threats and barriers. And she'll be explaining each of the activities as we go. And if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. We're happy to answer them. We'll also, depending on what questions, we might save some for the end of each activity. So I wanted to start. Have you know if the little room over? Yeah.
Clicker's not clicking.
Technical difficulties. We wanted to start by providing context about why we're here today. So we are here to help. This is the start of our strategic planning process. We are wanting to develop a countywide strategic plan. And thank you, Jen. So some of the reasons to plan are listed here. They help us provide strategic direction. They help us prioritize the use of limited resources. As Supervisor Leopold mentioned, after we have our strategic plan, which we hope to adopt in June, we want to develop an operational plan, which will implement the strategic plan and also implement a 2-year budget. So those will be tied together, and it will help us look at both implement the plan and help us look back at how we're doing with plan implementation. Another reason is to set a standard of excellence. We hope to establish some performance measures in the 3rd year of this process, where we're going to be evaluating how the plan is going and how we're doing in terms of implementation. It also helps us cope with environmental uncertainty, as things change with the economy or things change in general just in the environment, or with roads or with other issues. We can help respond to those. And then it provides an objective basis for control and evaluation, which we'll be using the performance measures for. Locked up again. Okay, so this is our strategic plan steering committee. We have representatives from each of the main areas of our county government: health and human services, general government, land use and community services. Sorry, there's a little typo there, and then public safety and justice. Those members are here today. These are the 2 phases of what we're entering into with our strategic plan. In this fiscal year, 17-18, we're in the first phase, where we're doing scans and SWOT analyses, and we're going to be generating vision, mission, and value statements for the county. And then eventually in the spring, we hope to move into generating our focus areas and our goals. So, and this year we hope to have an overall vision and mission, with a set of goals that we'll hope to adopt in June. And then in phase 2, which we'll enter in 18-19, we're going to be focused on our operational plan and our 2-year budget, which will have the more action plan to implement the strategic plan. So in terms of the county's role, I wanted to point out that the county really has 2 roles. One is to provide the mandated services in a variety of areas, primarily health and human, public safety and justice, and property tax. But we also provide a wide range of municipal services, much like a city. So that includes road repair, law enforcement, parks, libraries, and animal control. And a large reason for that is because our unincorporated population is so large. So in Santa Cruz County, we have about a 49% unincorporated population. You can see some of the other percentages in some of our neighboring counties, and then the California average is 17%. In terms of county operations, Supervisor Leopold welcomes everyone today. He's one member of our 5-member board of supervisors. We have the county administrative officer, which is who I report to. We're managing the provision of services for the board. We have our department heads who are overseeing all of our programs and services. Some of these are elected officials who have their own responsibility, for example, the sheriff. And then county employees carry out all the day-to-day activities. So at this point, I want to introduce Shebra again, who's going to go over our working agreements for the evening, and then she's going to launch us into our first activity.
Thank you, and welcome everybody. I'm really delighted to be participating in this process, and this is incredible, a packed room that's not a small room, so thank you guys for taking the time. So that we're all on the same page, we have some working agreements that we wanted to present to you. I'll just briefly read through them. Contribute ideas and information in service of the group discussion. So ideas that will help move us along, help us with this transition, and help us move through the strategic planning process. Contribute to the conversation with new ideas. We want to hear different perspectives, we want to hear all of your voices, and we want to hear different voices. Listen respectfully and without judgment. And linked to that, speak respectfully. We want to be having real conversations in here, and we think we can do that in a respectful way by listening and speaking respectfully. Participate and get involved. You're all here because you care about one thing or two things or many things. So please don't sit quietly, participate in the group discussions. If you haven't done so already, please silence your electronics. I had to check mine and make sure I did that before I walked in. And we will be doing group activities and moving from activity to activity. So I have a bell that I'll be using, and I'll go through it when I get into the group activities, but when I ring the bell once, that means you have 5 minutes left. When I ring the bell twice, it means you have 1 minute left. When I ring the bell 3 times, that means time's up. So I'll remind you about the bell. But that'll help us really move along the agenda and get to all the pieces that we need to get to tonight. Are there any big ones that we missed? Okay. If you come up with it later on, you can tell me. All right. Works. Oh, it worked for me. Okay, so as Nicole mentioned, the first activity we're going to do is visioning. So just to briefly talk about what does vision mean. You hear the word put out there in different contexts. So a vision defines the desired future for our county. It's really should be inspirational. It's what we aspire for in our future. And it's the whys for the county's focus and work. A vision statement can be, our vision is a community where, ... Our vision is a community that. So an effective vision statement will highlight what changes we wish to create for the future of our community. So you see some words around the room on that wall. Those words were generated by doing this activity with the county employees through several sessions. And we pulled through the words, some of them that were overlapping, collapsed and put together. And these are the same words that all the other forum attendees of forums that have passed, the last 3, have seen. So they're the same words. And what we'd like to do is ask you to pick your top. I think you should all have these little stickers. And I think you might have 8, is that correct? So the activity is, you take a minute to look through. You also have a piece of paper, or if you don't, we can come around and pass it around. So the words are also on this piece of paper. So take a few minutes to think about, what do we want for the future of our community? What word resonates with you? What lands with you? Or what words? If there's a word, I'll try to speak loud. I've been told I have a loud voice myself, so if you can't hear me in the back, let me know. If there's a word that you really think is missing, we can put up a separate sheet of paper. There's a blank sheet of paper at the back, and we can add that. But look hard at the words and see if the word that you're thinking of is it? Okay. All right. Is it? I'll just talk about it. Thank you. Yeah. So try to see if the word you're thinking of could fit into one of the words up there. So what you'll do is you'll take your little dots and you'll put them up on the words that, again, resonate with you, that land with you. You can put all your dots on one word. You can spread out the 8 dots through 8 different words. It's really up to you how you want to do that. And then what we'll do after this is we will take the poster boards and we will tally up sort of the words that have arisen to the top, and then we'll take it to the next step. Oh, that's the one. Okay. All right. So,
just so if people didn't notice, they're alphabetical, starting with A's down here, just to help you find your words. So.
Thank you. Yeah, they're in alphabetical order, and again, they're on this sheet. So if you want to take a couple of minutes to look at your sheet and kind of maybe tally it on your sheets, or if you prefer to walk around, that's fine as well. So we'll give you guys about 8 minutes to do that.
Do the dots have multiple meanings, or is it just like green means yes, or red means no, or do they have double meanings? Because that happens sometimes.
The colors of the dots have no meanings.
Okay.
Was that the question? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
so
curious.
we just have different colors, but the colors have no meanings.
You have a question.
This? Yeah, so think about how you want to. Thank you for bringing that up. This is for the whole county. This is county-wide. So think for all of Santa Cruz County, not necessarily just District 1, but all of Santa Cruz County. What is our vision? What do we want for our future? So remember the bells, I'll ring it once when you have 5 minutes left, and I'll ring it twice when you have a minute left, and 3 times when time's up. So I'll give you about 8 minutes.
Go ahead. Here? Or what you do is you just, if it comes to 30, you just come back.
That's correct. Affordable, collaborating, clean. Clean goes with the environment. I guess it's the same concern.
Here's working in schools.
Oh, I'm growing the wrong way. What does that mean?
We're the Sam.
Yeah, we're the, yeah.
We like the E through the I section, apparently.
Oh, safe. Oh my God. You're getting there. Oh, wow. That's a bingo. Yeah, looks safe. Great minds think alike. And sustainable. Transparent. Everything is important. I need more. I need more.
Oh, you can't do that.
I know.
Good, how are you? I've been meaning to email you.
I wanted to talk about just the grant.
How are you? Good to see you again.
Yeah, oh yeah. Fun is one word to describe it.
Really? Oh, okay, well here. Now's your chance. Now's your chance.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
Your monitor 95%.
Hey, how you doing?
It's like being human. You want to, and there's also other words that read some
So when you start using
Go ahead. Don't worry about me. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm doing it. Yeah, that's right. That's more work. Strategic plan. Then you do when you write. So it's like different things. I'll give it to
And you're working with the nonprofit.
Nice job.
All right, thank you, everyone. Already some lively conversations. This is great. And I should have put on my glasses because I was going to try to see if I can see where the trends are, but everything looks blurry. I see safe, sustainable, transparent, jobs, opportunity. I'm reading the ones that my eyes are catching right now with a lot of dots. Environment, healthy, innovate, environment. It's like back there is affordable. I see there's some new words written up and I can't read that far, but as I said, we're going to take all of this and we're going to accumulate the responses and see what's emerged. So thank you for participating in that activity. So we're going to move on to the next piece. All right, so we want to spend a little bit of time talking about what are the changes and trends that are happening in our community right now. So this is an initial snapshot of what's impacting the county, what's impacting our stakeholders, what's impacting our residents, and what's happening now and what's emerging in the near future. So the goal of doing this sort of snapshot scan is to identify the changes and trends, to seek out new information, and this could put into question some of our prior assumptions that we've had about our community, to identify issues and challenges that our county is facing, and to look at what's happening now and what could be emerging. So there could be broad and it could be a little more focused. So some examples which also kind of pop up in our vision words, availability of housing and affordability of housing, public safety, or mobility in traffic, cost of living and living wage, homelessness. So those are some examples of trends that we in our community are either looking at right now that are happening in our community, or trends that are about to come into our community. So we want to think again about county-wide. What are the trends county-wide from up north, Davenport, to down south in Pajaro Valley that are impacting? And it could be, the trends could be affecting us in a positive way, or they could be posing some challenges. We'll get to the SWOT analysis next, but we have a room of dedicated community members that are engaged. That's a trend that we've seen, at least here in District 1, since you guys have the most that showed up. So that's the activity we're going to move into next. I want to pause and ask if there are questions about what we mean by a scan of our county and a scan of our community.
Actually, I don't have a question about Stan, I have a question about, because you explained that to me. But you mentioned that we'll impact stakeholders, and then you said, and residents. What's the difference between a stakeholder and a resident?
It's not. Community members are stakeholders. So there's,
Then why don't we just say residents? Why are we called stakeholders?
great
That's my
suggestion.
question.
Great suggestion. We can make that shift in language.
Wouldn't a business be a stakeholder?
Stakeholders can be at various levels. We can have community members are stakeholders, businesses are stakeholders, organizations are stakeholders, initiatives that are doing work in the community are stakeholders. So it could be very broad and can be defined in a lot of different ways. But community members captures it as well, so thank you. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do next is, where's the little... So we get into small groups. We set up chairs in rows of 5. So we'd like you to turn around and face each other and form groups of 10. So 2 rows of 5, turn around and form groups of 10. We'll do that. Let me give you all the instructions and then we'll do it. Sorry. That was premature. Don't do it yet. Don't do it yet. Once you get into your groups of 10, there will be a staff member that will come to your group who is going to help with facilitating and taking notes and helping move along with the time. So what we want you to do is when you get into your groups, we want you to introduce yourselves by stating your name and completing this statement. I'm committed to the future of Santa Cruz County because, and really keep it brief, you know, we know you're committed and we know there are a lot of reasons, but you have one reason that you're committed to the future of Santa Cruz County. So my name is Shebra. I'm committed to the future of Santa Cruz County because this is my home and this is where I want my children to grow up. So finish that sentence, and then what you'll do is you're going to discuss this question in small groups. What are the most significant trends and demands in our region we must plan for and be able to respond to? And again, I gave some examples. It could be affordability of housing, could be mobility or lack thereof. Once you discuss these questions in your group, there'll be the facilitator will take notes, and after about 10 minutes or so, we'll call the group back together, and I'm going to ask you to report on maybe 2 of the highlights that you want to share with the rest of the group that emerged in your group. I see some questions.
Why can't one of us take the notes instead of a facilitator?
You can absolutely take notes. We were trying to, the purpose of having a facilitator come in and take notes and keep time was so that you would be free to speak, but if you want to take notes, fantastic. Yes?
Could you define significant trends?
So some of the examples that were named were affordable housing or living wage or traffic congestion.
What's a generalized? Just what's a I guess I'm trying to find out what trend means.
So trend is what we see happening in our community, what we see throughout the county that's happening in our community. So finding affordable housing is a trend that we've seen in our community.
Actually, we're not finding it.
Well, right, that's what I mean. Lack of affordable housing.
But isn't there movement implied or part of the meaning of trend? So you're moving either to more or there's some quality that's developing. It's a dynamic, not static. So it's not just what we see in the community.
It's what could come as well. It's what may come.
Well, it's what is happening. The housing, for example, is increasing in price.
It's what is happening, it's what's yet to come as well. It's what's happening and what may happen, what we see coming.
But what is not happening?
Okay. Yes?
What criteria was used to come up with this list? It's my third meeting, and the disabled community hasn't been on a single list, and that's 1 in 5 Americans is the 2017 survey.
We went through the same process that you're going through tonight with the county employees in several sessions, and that's how the initial vision words were generated. And this isn't the last time we'll be having this discussion. This is the first step of phase 1 of generating input. So thank you for bringing that up, and I know you put it up there on the blank sheet of paper.
How long is the website going to be up, and how long is the survey going to remain?
That I don't have the answer to.
Survey should be up through the holidays,
So one more
towards
month.
the end of December, yeah.
How many people are on the mailing list now?
About 700 and about 1,000 people have filled out the survey in about a week.
Okay, so like one high school, that's one high school in Santa Cruz. So I haven't talked to a single, no disrespect, I'm very thankful for this, and you have a great turnout, so I'm really happy to see everybody here. But I haven't talked to a single local scientist, firefighter, police officer, head of a nonprofit, school nurse or psychologist, special needs teacher, any teacher who's heard about this planning process. And these are the folks for sure that need to be involved. I know that the flyers have got the dates and locations of the meetings. Are there going to be maybe other ones produced that just talk about the survey that we can take to businesses? Are they allowed?
Well, you and I have discussed the outreach before, and we're happy to do it again with you afterwards.
So I would encourage everyone to help spread the word about the work that we're doing, and just a reminder that this is the very beginning of this process.
Chair, I can't speak to anybody else, but I'm a local educator, and I'm sitting next to and married to the director of a local nonprofit. We heard about it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Great. Thank you. So, and we know that there's a lot of other people out there that need to be engaged and involved, and we hope to, and we plan to do it in a variety of ways, including surveys, forums, focus groups. So this is the beginning. So, all right, I'm going to move this along because I do want to get everyone out of here on time at 8 o'clock. I'm going to ask you guys to get into your groups now. 1 bell, 5 minutes left. 2 bells, 1 minute left. 3 bells, time stop.
People are turning around.
Let's try to have a total of 5 groups, if we can.
So how much time? We need,
Looks like this group up front can use some more members.
We're trying to get 5 groups.
That'll be a big group though.
We're a small group up front, if some of you want to join.
This group up here can use some more members. This group up here can use some more members. So you have 10 minutes to have a discussion.
So I'm coming to agree, like, because I
You can start, yes. So remember to introduce yourselves.
I think my name is
And respond to this question.
My name is Ellen. I'm one of staff. I'm the director of the Services Department. And so I want to thank you all for joining the group, and I want to just kick off the group by asking us to go around and introduce ourselves and answer that question. Would you like to start?
So my name is Marissa, and I am here because I am in the community, and I really want to see people. I want to see it through a good way, and I want to participate in the community connecting
My name is Tom Stumbaugh. I don't know.
I wanted to live here.
Welcome, Tom. That's okay. That's honest. Thank you.
My name is Dean Lundholm, and I live here, and I have a daughter and granddaughter who live here, and I want them to be able to continue living here in a good place.
I'm Colleen Douglas, and I'm coming to the future of Santa Cruz County because I've lived there for 50 years. I have kids and grandkids who actually live here, and I want them to be able to continue to live here in a positive way.
I'm Sandy Skis, I'm a District 1 resident, and I'm here because I believe all of us have an opportunity and a responsibility to be engaged in our county as a citizen. I'm here as a citizen, and I want to build a county that is thriving and available and accessible to all.
Us to lose the quality of living and the reason we moved here in the first place.
I would separate the things already. I'm white here. I have like I have a voice that I would like to important in part of the conversation, but I also like to see how the rest of the communities engage and usually when I come to a meeting, I like to see who's not here. And I have a team, so I also care about it.
My name's Rachel Steiner, I live in Aptos. Me too. It worries me a lot.
I'm Gary Lindstrom. I'm a resident of Aptos for over 50 years. And I'm not happy with the way the county's going. It's pointed in the wrong direction. It needs to be turned around. We need to get back to core values and things. Get the housing taken care of. Get the water problems taken care of. I mean, the list goes on and on. And unfortunately, the big thing that's happening right now is we're losing a lot of our historical history through buildings being destroyed and history not even being recognized. So it's time to get us back on the roads where we used to be.
Hello everyone, thanks for coming. My name is Sean Schramm, and I'm here because two women I love very much call Santa Cruz home. In my spare time I advocate for the special needs and mobility and disabled communities. And I also want to see our public servants, which includes teachers and medical professionals within the school district. I want to see them appreciated more in a tangible way. Housing.
Kevin Ewer, I've lived in Santa Cruz and Aptos for 15 years.
I'm sorry. Housing, their pay,
Many communities in 3 different states, and like Troy said, there's no place like this.
Hi everyone, my name's Jamie. I did not grow up here. I'm transplanted. I was sent here from organizations that I'm a part of. One is Monarch Services, which is an organization that supports people who have experienced violence. And then I'm also from the Diversity Center, which is an LGBTQ resource center. So I'm representing those two organizations I'm a part of to make our community grow.
And just this year, we get the right to lanes on Highway 1.
Hi, I'm Bob Campbell. I've lived in Santa Cruz since 1973 and had a daughter here, and lucky enough to own a home on the west side of Santa Cruz, and been involved in the community a long time and continue to want to continue to be involved in the community, so I'm here to be involved in the community.
My name is Bruce Tanner, and I've been a resident of Santa Cruz for about 30 years. I'm here because I think that this county really needs increased transparency and accountability. I think there is a very high level of corruption in our county government. I think there's a lot of arrogance and disdain from county officials and staff on what it is of the public in Santa Cruz. And I think that things are going in a very bad direction, where meetings such as this are planned with accepting only limited input from us. When people bring up serious questions, in general, they are shelved or not responded to.
So I think that was the ding for us to transition to the brainstorming. And what my role here is really just to take notes and listen to what you're saying and try to do this one to put that. So the question that we're asking and answering here is what are the most significant trends and demands in our region. What are the most significant trends and demands in our region that we must plan for and be able to respond to? And that, I think there was a question about what's the definition of trend. That's a good question. I don't want to get hung up on the right answer for that. I feel like a better thing to do is, I'm not here to be the decider of what a trend is. I just really want you guys to respond from the up about your own experiences. What do you see happening?
Well, I'll start. Housing is a trend. The price is going up, the population is going up, and the number of houses, the units built is not keeping up with the population trend. And it will get worse, much worse.
Can I ask a question? Is anybody in this room disagree? Does anybody disagree with that? No? Because I just want to, one of the things I have to do is report back on the top two. I just want to, I didn't assume that anybody disagreed with it.
That was the top thing on my list was health.
Because I think that to generate as many ideas as we can, I want to make sure that we get the test, because I know that that's come up every single time. So I just wanted to get a sense if that resonated with everyone. It doesn't. I want to say that we need innovative solutions to this problem that are not tied to old zoning models, say, or whatever. We cannot continue to just say it was made up 50 years ago and we must do it. That's not going to work.
Well, that's another trend. That this energy for keeping it as it was 30 years ago.
I'd just like to balance that a little bit with, affordable housing, more housing, with also some sense of how are we going to limit growth in Santa Cruz as well. So I think part of limiting growth in Santa Cruz has gotten us into the affordable housing mess that we're in now. Okay, I understand that. But also, as we're trying to provide more space for more people, especially those people who may be more economically challenged and don't have a lot of money to spend on housing, continue to balance that with some sensible growth in the county as well.
Well, we aren't here to find solutions. We're to look at trends.
Yeah.
What is happening now in our community?
One thing that's happening in this community right now is that kids are growing up and they can't leave their parents' home because there's no jobs that will pay them the amount of money they need to get out on their own. And that's happening tons and tons of kids can't get out on their own.
So jobs with the living wage, jobs and living wage jobs.
I think definitely water as well is very important because you can't have growth without water, because if you build up a ton of housing or whatever and you don't have any water for it, there's no point in building it if you just get mud or
So
something else.
accessibility to water.
Yeah, definitely find a water source before you start planning out anything major, because humans take growth. And humans take water no matter what is said about, if there's more housing, it didn't take less water because of some local toilet. It's not going to do anything. It's still going to take water.
Well, the trend is that we are running out of water.
We need to find more.
So let's get another voice in.
Yeah, I just want to add something before we would have to close out. The connection of the lack of affordable housing and the lack of living wages, I think, connects to a trend that I see in the lack of diversity. And that if there's not living wages and there's not affordable housing, then only a certain type of people are part of our community, and that is a trend I see, and it's an issue that I have.
So what do those bells mean? Hold it.
So that was the 3 bells, that means time's up.
That was fast.
Sorry, that was 10 minutes. So let me get everyone
everyone's attention back up here. You'll have a chance to continue to talk, I promise.
Climate change and impacts on development.
So what I'd like to ask now
Watsonville for industry.
is for each group to report out on a few, maybe 2, at max 3 of the issues that came up in your group. And again, you'll get more time to talk. Sorry, I had to cut you off.
Sure.
So yeah.
Hi, it's Helen, and we didn't have enough time. But in the time that we did have, and I'm going to ask my group, hopefully I got the right 2 or 3. Absolutely. Okay, our group, thank you, our group focused on affordable housing and the lack of affordable housing and the impact of that in terms of its relationship to wages and having a living wage and jobs that can be produced in this community in order to afford housing. Another outgrowth of that housing discussion was the impact of the lack of affordability on diversity in this community. And as we think about increasing the amount of affordable housing, there was a lot of attention paid to the impact of how we do that in a smart and balanced way. The impacts on water, the impacts on land, and so I think those were the main focus areas in our group. Would you all agree?
Transportation.
Transportation.
Public transportation.
Public transportation. Okay?
Thank you. Would you like a...
Hi. It's hard to pick 3. We're going to make one really big, and it includes 2 parts. One is that bicycle and pedestrian injuries and fatalities are in the increase, and as the transportation technology improves and goes wild and it's being diversified, the traffic is getting worse. So it's a combination of fatalities, injuries, and traffic getting worse. And then we also have the fact that we don't just need jobs, but we need jobs that pay enough to live here, so sustainable wages. And a third one that I'm going to pick is we need to focus on educating the workforce so we don't import any workforce.
Thank you. This group next, would you like to come up and use the microphone or try to slip on it?
I'm well. I'm good. Sorry, so I just had a pretty good lively discussion. One of the things we did talk about also was housing. And it wasn't, affordable housing was mentioned, but it was more about the availability of housing. We really saw a trend, or we are seeing a trend locally that the housing market has been shifting to more rentals, more Airbnbs, more vacation homes. So that's a disturbing trend that this group identified. We also talked about some of the shortages of resources such as water overdrafts in the different areas. We talked about our surf line, our coastal line erosion. And for our third item, we also talked about the lack of available public transportation, and there used to be quite an abundance in the past until Reagan.
Well, that was a big.
That's when it started. Back in the 80s, so until it changed. So, did I miss anything?
Yes.
I did. No?
Yes.
Here we go.
Yes. I brought up the subject, and it seems to be everybody agreed. We have a growth situation here that is enough. Not everybody can live in paradise. We can't just keep building ourselves out of this problem. Would it be okay if we even stopped or shortened our growth projections and solidified them a bit? What the hell is the deal with 3,000 more students up at UCSC? You can't afford to have them. The transportation isn't here. The water isn't here. You're going to have to build Zayante Dam. You're going to have to build Soquel Creek Dam. San Lorenzo River will dry up. Soquel Creek will dry up. Aptos Creek will dry up. There won't be a fish anywhere. If you continue with this idea that we have to solve the problem to build out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Growth has come up in other forms as well, so thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was right on.
So we'll move to this one.
Hi there. We've discussed a lot of the same things that the other groups have mentioned, so I'll just try to pinpoint a few that didn't get popped up too big yet. and that was growth of the senior demographic and challenges they are experiencing regarding housing, food, and medical issues. Growth of inequity, income and resource disparities, including health disparities. Sustainability of resources to provide services will be a challenge in the future as it is now. Levels of service will be strained. And immigration, uncertainty on the policy and its impacts in our community.
Thank you.
Did I miss anything? That was big. Okay.
And final group.
Hi, I'm Fernando, and a lot of what was said was mentioned, but I'll talk about, we are seeing an increase in homelessness. Affordability of housing was a big one. Certainly, to this gentleman's point, the implications of density in terms of demand for water, traffic, and public safety. And the other part was managing development, seeing a lot of chain stores coming in, but not a trend really in small businesses growing. Anything else?
Transportation.
Thank you. So some overlaps between groups and certainly overlaps with what we've heard in the other forums as well. So now we're going to move to our next activity, and that is that we're going to do what's called a SWOT analysis. So I'm going to just briefly describe what that means, what a SWOT analysis means. So this is a standard exercise that communities and groups and organizations use when they're doing a strategic plan process. And what we want to look at are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats/barriers that are here in our community. It provides us a multidimensional view of a specific issue. So we'll use this format to dive a little deeper into the issues that you guys just brought up. So just a little bit more about the SWOT quadrants, as they call them. So the strength is, what are we doing well in this county? What is the county doing well? Let me back up. What we're going to ask you to do in the groups that you're in is we're going to ask you to narrow and dive deep into one of the issues that you discussed in the group. So you each just highlighted about 3 issues. So select one of those issues and then do a SWOT on that issue. So let's say it's transportation. What are we doing well in this county? What is the county doing well around transportation? What are the strengths around that issue? What are the areas that we need to improve on around that selected issue? What gets in our way? What are our threats and barriers? What gets in our way around that specific issue that your group selected? And what are some external opportunities that we have around that issue? So each group will do that and you'll have to select one. I know that it's really hard. But know that this is a brainstorming session. Know that you don't need to reach consensus. And again, just a reminder that this is the first step of this whole process. So come to an agreement with your groups. Select one of the issues that you just highlighted for the group. So you already have to narrow it down to 3. So you're halfway there. Out of those 3, select one. And then do the SWOT analysis. You have forms in front of you that asks those questions. And your facilitator, or if you'd like, some other note taker can take notes. And what we'll do at the end is we'll go around and we'll ask each group to report out on one dimension of each quadrant. And I'll repeat the instructions when we do the report out. Let me see, what else do I want to say? Right, so yeah, this is brainstorming. We're not evaluating ideas. We're not striving for consensus. And all of the ideas will be recorded. If you want to write on your own white piece of paper that you have, you can turn that in as well. So we'll gather everything, but narrow in on one issue, and then you'll report out again in each quadrant, one element from each quadrant. Time. Good question. So the bells, I know that it's maybe a little confusing, but I thought the bells would be better than me shouting at you. You've got 5 minutes left.
So the bells, you have 7 minutes per quadrant. 7 minutes to talk about strengths, 7 minutes to talk about weaknesses, 7 minutes to talk about threats, barriers, 7 minutes for opportunities. What I'm going to do this time, because it's 7 minutes, I'm not going to say you have 5 minutes left. What I'm going to do is that when you have 1 minute left, let me think. When you have 2 minutes left, I'll ring the bell 2 times. Does that work? And then when you're out of time, I'll ring the bell once. And that means it's time to move to the next quadrant. So maybe you guys want to keep someone, maybe the facilitator, can be in charge of, okay, now we got to move to weaknesses. Okay, now we're going to move to opportunities. Are there any general questions? Yes?
Growth comes up in every meeting. If you start talking about, we don't have room for people here, you're going to have to answer for who do you want to keep out? You want to get rid of, you want to solve transportation and have fewer cars that take up space? You want to denser housing, or do you really want to limit who's coming in?
So I would encourage one of the groups to select group and dive deep. Those are good questions. So I would encourage one, and hopefully it's worked out in the last few forums that each group has picked something a little different, and we'll walk around and kind of listen, but I hope that one of the groups decides to kind of dive deeper into group. Okay, so I'm gonna, are there any other questions before I start the timer on you guys? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, go, 7 minutes on strength.
That's what
Okay, everyone. I know there's a lot of lively conversations, but I'm going to ask you to come back towards the front. Stay where you are, but...
Make demands on...
Yeah. There we go. Okay, so... Don't leave yet. Just turn your chairs around, please. So I heard a lot of lively discussion as I was walking around. And we're going to have an opportunity to hear just a little bit from each group about what you discussed. So I know that we asked you to do this very quickly, and I'm really quite impressed with how much has been generated as I walked around the room. So I'm going to ask again for a quick report out, again, so we can get you out on time. So we're going to go around to each group, and we're going to start at the back this time to change it up a little bit. So from each quadrant, one element, and you'll have about 2 minutes per group.
Okay. Our issue was managing commercial and residential development. So quadrant 1, strengths. Choose one thing, right? I heard right. Talked about mixed use as a strength, mixed use of development, meaning combination of business and residential, height, business on the bottom, residential on the top. That was one strength.
I think you talked about all 4.
One for each quadrant.
Oh, one for each quadrant. Thank you. Didn't follow direct. Weaknesses. 1. Okay, gosh, that was easy one to come up with. I talk about really lack of appropriate zoning, contradictory and confusing ordinances around building. There was a lot of discussion around that. Opportunities. We talked about. I'm going to pick one. Boy. Okay. Funding. Come up with alternative revenue sources, such as sales tax, pass bonds to help affordable development. And obstacles and barriers, things that are getting in the way. I would say we have a lot of vacation rentals, too many, limits affordable rental availability, too many vacation rentals.
Thank you. You stuck to less than 2 minutes. Great job.
Okay.
So we'll go to this group next.
What?
Look backwards.
All right.
It's an improv moment.
I'm sorry. All right. Okay, strengths. We talked about inequity as an issue. And so our strengths were that we have an involved government and an engaged population with a large number of nonprofits and a compassionate community.
Sorry, what was your issue area?
Inequity.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Inequity, that's the issue. For weaknesses, we have a great deal of unequal access to services such as good jobs, food, education, and transportation. Opportunities. We have an opportunity to prevent inequality, and we could also engage with the universities and use that student and teacher power. Then barriers and obstacles. Let's see. We seem to have an inability to effectively engage fully with our community and all of its diversity, and we're resistant to change. And then other suggestions in our parking lot, we had, again, inequitable education opportunity access, and we want sidewalks and live oak, and we have wonderful parks.
This group, please.
All right, so we're gonna steal that group's time a little bit. Just a little bit.
You got 2 minutes.
Okay, so ours was growth, or basically kind of how to limit or control growth in our community. For our strengths that we have a taxing authority. We talked about potentially instituting a speculation tax. It would be nice on those people that have like the vacation rentals, Airbnbs. There was a third one, I just went right. And the other one that I can't remember. And then also another strength that we have is the willingness to talk it out in our community. We have a very process oriented. So as far as strengths and ways to limit the growth. So, and for weaknesses that we have for growth, the pressures from our developers and investors, and realtors, thank you. I couldn't read my own writing. I better work on that. For weaknesses that we have, for opportunities that we identified to increase, basically to control the growth, was basically if we can hold the standard of quality of life in our community, same way, shape, or form, would be a great opportunity if we can come up with a standard of what we want for quality of life, and then hold our policies to that standard and our growth to that standard, and also make demands on developers and accountability, and make them accountable for that. And we have one more page. So for our barriers and obstacles for our growth is basically our lack of, Silicon Valley was our number one thing, is one of our barriers that we have to control growth. There's been an influx of Silicon Valley coming this way, especially Cisco and Santa Cruz was mentioned. And lack of innovation, kind of related to allowing us to build tiny houses, and something else I can't read in my own handwriting. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we're here now.
That's strong thing.
I chose traffic, transportation, and the strengths that the county does have in this subject are Measure D, which we approved last year, and the new infrastructure that's being installed, including the green lanes and the new bike lanes. So there's new infrastructure being added. The weaknesses are the lack of a pedestrian bicycle network countywide, which includes no continuous sidewalk or no continuous bike lane, so no network. And the other weakness we chose was the fact that the people can't live where they work. So rather than say Highway 1 is too congested, we're saying people are having to commute. For opportunities, we're looking at the SB1, the gas tax that's in place now. Other opportunities include the countywide active transportation plan. And we are making a strong case for reinstating school buses to cut back on the parents having to drive their kids to school. And for the barriers and obstacles, there's a lot, including bad attitude about public transportation. But we picked two, which is the lack of incentives for employers to promote non-solo driving, whatever that is, whether it's a bus pass or charge for parking, whatever it is, how we can help employers promote, have incentives for their employees. and the fact that not everyone feels safe walking and or biking.
Thank you.
Last but not least.
Okay, try to do this on the fly. We're a very lively group with a lot of ideas. Let me start with our strengths.
What's the subject?
Oh, our issue, affordability, very broad. In the strength area, we feel like addressing the affordability, that we have a strength in our economy on agriculture, tourism, an economy that values education and the arts. On the people side of the strength equation, we feel like it's actually a strength that we know we have an affordability problem. Self-awareness is the first step. We also feel like there's a strength in the community that we care a lot, and it's expressed in a lot of different ways in this community. We care about future generations, we care about each other. On the weaknesses side of the equation for affordability, wage inequity, the very thing that's a strength, as an example, agriculture and tourism are two of the lowest paying occupational areas in the country and the county. On the people side of this weakness area, even though we are committed to this issue, there's a lot of fragmentation that was expressed by our group, fragmentation across government entities, fragmentation within between government and nonprofits, people who advocate in their lane but don't always look peripherally. So I think that was one of the weakness areas that we talked about. Now let me look at opportunities. Some of these themes came across as weaknesses and strength, opportunities and threats. So just as an example, tourism and agriculture. We feel like one of our biggest opportunities is to use the assets that we have and think more creatively about how to draw in interest in both generating economic opportunities and income, trying to address the income gaps. We also think that there's an opportunity, even with something as crisis-oriented as climate change. How can we take things that are right in front of us and turn that into an opportunity for the community that we have with these kinds of values? For example, climate change as an opportunity to open up and get really creative on zoning. Innovative housing solutions. If we have an affordability crisis in housing, how do we start to think more outside the box? Tiny houses, mixed-use properties. I think those were some of the opportunities. Coalition building. Coalition, one example of that was taking, again, another strength, something like the alternative healing community, the alternative healthcare options, that we are a rich community with respect to healthcare. So how can we build coalitions across those kinds of communities that will help us address affordability? And then the last one, I believe, was barriers and obstacles. Silicon Valley was mentioned by one of our colleagues who's here. Just the whole notion that we are losing a lot of our affordability issues, whether it's housing or jobs, to people who are coming over and not necessarily here as residents. The huge wage inequity across those who have and those who don't have. The fact that we believe it's a barrier that we don't have any community consensus about what smart growth and what the whole topic of growth. And it's fine to engage in these conversations, but until we have like a North Star around what we're headed for, that's actually a barrier. And anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you guys. I know that was just a snippet of the conversations you had, and we will be collecting the notes that were taken, and we will be taking all of it into consideration. So thanks for sharing just a little bit of the conversation with the rest of the group. But I hand it to Nicole to wrap up and tell us what's next.
So I just wanted to point out, we have a website with information, and it includes a calendar of events which had all of these meetings listed. But there's also a library there if you want to look at any of the materials that we've presented to our board since the fall. And we also have a link to our survey, which is online. So you're welcome to go to that link and fill out the survey as well. We have over 1,000 or almost 1,000 responses so far, and it's only been up for a short while. So we hope to get many more before we close it at the end of December. We also have the email address there if you want to communicate with us. We're monitoring that email account. And we're going to be going to the board with a brief update in December and then returning to them in the winter and the spring with some additional information and activities that we'll be planning. If you are interested in leaving us your name and email address to potentially participate in a focus group, we have some pieces of paper at the back where you can fill out that information, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have. So thank you so much for coming, and Trevor has a closing comment.
Are there any questions before I?
If you only have the survey online, you are severely limiting who's going to fill it out. Will you have people on the street with the survey to help people fill it out?
Yeah, so let me add to that. That's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up. We are planning to go out into the community with the survey in a paper format and also potentially on tablets or computers. So we're going to be working with hopefully youth to send some folks out into the community at various farmers markets and different local events so that people who would just see out and about can fill it out as well. Yes?
Why don't you, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was saying related to that, if I don't know if the flyers have these, but if we put one of those QR codes so that people that don't have necessarily home internet access, but maybe usually use mobile devices to get on the internet, could get on the survey that way.
That's a good suggestion. Thank you.
I was just going to say that you should put the survey in the good times.
It has been in the Sentinel.
Yeah, but
it had a listed
Actual service.
the actual survey. There was an article and links to the survey in the Sentinel.
Does this, would that happen to include maybe sending some to our schools, our firehouses, our police stations?
So we recently, and you can talk to Jason about this, but we recently sent a message through the County Office of Education to a large list that they had generated with, it should have gone to teachers, parents, families, students. So some of you, I don't know if you received that email, but hopefully that reached a large number of folks. And we're going to be sending it out in different ways. So if you have any other suggestions, let us know.
I've noticed it on Nextdoor also.
Yes, it's been on Nextdoor and on Facebook a lot.
I would encourage you to reach out to all the local senior centers as well. And I work for Meals on Wheels, and there's always that. We put a lot of public information and information referral type stuff, and we send it out to our home delivery clients.
Okay.
So maybe we could work together on that.
Okay, thank you.
Is it available in Spanish?
We do. We have the survey in Spanish, and actually all these worksheets are in Spanish too. We're hoping to do one of these sessions all in Spanish. We're working on trying to arrange that, but we do have materials in Spanish.
So what percentage, or I mean, I guess what's the metric that determines that you have adequately assessed the pulse of the community? Is it 10%, 5%? I mean, there's all kinds of information about what's an adequate survey. And on the one hand, I hear this is about polling the populace, so to speak, to get their position. If that's the case, then are we talking about a vote? And I don't think so. But it's an interesting concept that's really hard to carry out, it seems to me, in a truthful manner. I mean, we represent, how many are we here? 150 maybe? And you've had less at every other meeting. It's just an interesting idea that this is going to somehow represent the true opinion of some majority, or it's not even really considered to be a majority.
That's not what they're asking.
Yeah, no, I know they're not asking, but you are saying that you're trying to implement a vision of the people, so to speak, right? That's what John said, and I think some other people said. But it's really it's the vision of the people who show up. It's the vision of the people who show up, right? That's what it truly is going to be. Either the vision of people who vote, who show up.
Less than 50, they don't care.
Yeah, and that's the way it works. But I think let's call it what it is. It's not a vision of the majority necessarily, or anything else. It's a position of those who show up and speak their mind. Right?
We hope through our efforts we can get diverse enough perspectives that it'll touch on different demographics and touch on different viewpoints and areas where people live. So that's why we're trying as much as possible to have as robust engagement as we can.
And that's good. I'm not criticizing. It's appropriate that we call it what it is, because I think it's kind of mislabeled with it.
I kind of agree. I want to jump on what he's saying, but different. It's a vision, but a vision for what? What are we talking about here? Are we giving the community or the county the go-ahead to develop? Or are we giving them the go-ahead to derail? Or what exactly is this all about? Because I really have no idea outside of talking.
Well, eventually, right now we're at a very high level in terms of the principles and concepts we're talking about, but as we drill down further through this process, we're going to have a specific set of goals for the county within various focus areas. So, housing and homelessness comes up a lot. So you could see how you could potentially have an area related to housing or homelessness or other issues that are tied to that, or trafficking. Transportation also comes up a lot. So maybe there's a focus area related to that, but within those areas, the county is going to want to set specific goals and then direct some resources to try and achieve what the specific actions are underneath those goals.
Will you be posting the results from these workshops, or say the numbers on those, or the idea lists on your website?
We're going to be going back to the board with various updates, talking about the results of these meetings and the results of all the information we're collecting. So there should be additional materials that we will post on the website.
Okay, great questions. And again, this is just the beginning of this process. And I hope one takeaway is that please spread the word. Please stay engaged with us, stay connected with us, and keep coming to all the different ways that we're trying to connect. So I'm gonna close with a quote. My life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live, it is my privilege to do for it whatever I can. Life is not a brief candle to me. It is a sort of splendid torch which I have got hold of for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it over to future generations. George Bernard Shaw. So I want to thank you guys for being here, for your commitment, for your passion, and for wanting to make sure that everyone's engaged in this process. So please keep at it. Thank you guys.
I reached you in
Yeah, it's enjoyable to hear.
Thank you.